ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome to the Raw review. Now, today's Raw actually took place in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The home of Mr. Kennedy. I might start doing like wherever they are, like do a, I guess kind of like do their entrance whenever they're like introduced or something, kind of like how Mr. Kennedy introduced himself when he was in the WWE. But now he's Mr. Anderson. But who knows? That is one guy I would love to see back, by the way. Um, Tonight on Raw we had two new SummerSlam matches, um, basically confirmed. I was right about this World Heavyweight Championship. Maybe it'll go to Christian, maybe it won't. But who knows at this point? To start the show, we had Daniel Bryan come out for his corporate makeover. That's right, I had to do air quotes around it because he still looked like he did even if he wasn't wearing a tux. He was wearing this blue tux with his hair kind of slicked back and in a ponytail and all this. And he was speaking. Quite simply put, the way he was saying was John Cena. All he's here for is entertaining. Me, I'm here to wrestle. I'm here to win championships. John Cena's just here to entertain you. I will be WWE champion at SummerSlam, which to me I kind of hope he is. It's about time Bryan deserves to be the champion. But that's just me. I'm sure everyone in the WWE universe agrees too. Especially everyone who chants yes, yes, yes. I do it every week. Bryan's one of those influential characters who you follow him. You could be like me. You could be straight edge. But it's kind of like Punk. Punk is an influential superstar. Um, and then we had Vince McMahon come out and he basically just insulted uh, Daniel Bryan. He said that he's like a miniature Mick Foley. Um, that he's a troll. He's only like 5'5" or something like that. But there's really nothing bad about that. I mean, at least he didn't say, "Hey, you don't deserve to be a world heavyweight champion. You don't even deserve to be a WWE champion. The title you deserve more is like the Pee Wee Championship or the Cruiserweight Championship or something like that." But after the fact, Vince McMahon said, if you really want to be WWE champion, you gotta shave off your beard. So he has these guys bring out the little barber's chair and the little barber's stand and all that, and they bring it out. Vince McMahon introduces Wade Barrett to come out and cut Bryan's beard. Well, he comes out. Bryan's sitting down. He's ready. He's waiting, and Bryan's saying, "Just leave at least like this part right here for me, please." And Wade Barrett's like, "Why would I do that?" And as he does it, he kind of headbutts him, and he throws Barrett into the chair and cuts off his beard. So this could be a new beardless Barrett. Then we had Bryan basically get up out of the chair, go up towards the ramp, and rip off the tuxedo, and he reveals a new shirt that says "The beard is here," and it points up towards the beard. It's kind of like a mock of John Cena's "The champ is here" with it pointing down with the championship belt on. But it's a "beard is here" shirt, which to me is kind of cool. Um, and then we had Rob Van Dam versus the World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio. If you notice, I can roll my R's, unlike some people who can't. But it was Alberto Del Rio. But before I do talk about this match, these two SummerSlam matches are confirmed now. We will talk about them when we get to that segment. Okay. The Miz joined on commentary because he's the host of SummerSlam. I guess being the host of SummerSlam means that you get to introduce the new game who comes out. And Miz has been involved with the WWE video game, like Corey Ledesma a lot, for a couple of years, ever since he's been on, like, I think 2011. So they made him the official host of SummerSlam to, I guess, introduce it. I guess that's all really he's doing. But it was confirmed today that JBL is in the game. So, and still that undisputed title that he had when he was the longest reigning SmackDown champion or WWE champion in SmackDown history is on there too. So they're saying the new title's on there, but we don't know yet. It should be, but we don't know yet. Let's see here. Ricardo Rodriguez. This is actually near the end of the match. Ricardo Rodriguez takes that little spit bucket thing that he carries around, and he kind of wedges it in between the ropes. Okay. And when he does that, the first time it falls out, and then he picks it back up and puts it back in, and he's like, "Hey, I got it. The spit bucket set up." And RVD sees it, and Del Rio's going in to throw him in. Well, RVD turns around and smashes his head into it, and gets like that. Just like he does like this little roll up with his legs and all this, and gets the 1, 2, 3. Well, apparently Alberto Del Rio didn't like that, and he basically took his aggression out on Ricardo Rodriguez. He took the spit bucket and beat him down with it. He did all these things, and finally he throws him through the second and third rope. Ricardo is basically on the ground, and he picks him up and puts his head between the turnbuckle and the steel steps, and then he runs and drop kicks it. Now they're saying that when Alberto Del Rio came out, that he's back from a long injury. I told you guys before. I told you guys 30 days ago, well, probably 30 days ago, that it wasn't an injury. It was a suspension because he uses fat burners. Because if you notice, Rodriguez is a little fat, so that's why that's where he was. He was not injured, like they say he was. They're not gonna. If they get suspended, they're not going to tell you the real reason. If they get arrested, they're not going to tell you the real reason. Kind of like how Kurt Angle recently was here arrested for DUI. So they're going to punish Kurt Angle somehow on TNA, and they punished Jack Swagger for months after he was arrested. So they got to punish Ricardo somehow, and they suspend him. They say he's injured, but they suspend him. But this could be an injury. This is probably going to be a storyline injury. And Ricardo Rodriguez is more than likely not going to be with him anymore. I wouldn't. We had Cody Rhodes come out to the ring, and he has a package for Sandow. And I was saying, and when I saw it, it was thin enough. And I said, that actually looks like it might even be the Money in the Bank ladder match briefcase for the World Heavyweight Championship. And guess what? It was. It was the Money in the Bank World Heavyweight Championship briefcase, and this thing was beat to crap. There were like leaves hanging out. It was the blue was much darker. I mean, it was just beat to hell. Sandow comes out and says, "You put that down and get out of the ring." So Rhodes puts it down, gets out of the ring. Rhodes comes in there and tries to grab it, and Rhodes just slid back in the ring and attacked Sandow. Now, this led to Cody Rhodes opening up the briefcase, pulling out the contract, and I guess he was saying, like, this is mine or something, because they didn't show really what... He didn't pull out the contract. He actually dumped it out with all the sand and water and the moist contract. He just picked it up after that, and they didn't show what he did. They didn't show if he tore it up. They didn't show if he like put it in his back pocket or something. They didn't show. So we don't know what he did. But that now leads to a match at SummerSlam: Cody Rhodes versus Damien Sandow. Now they could do a little bit more with this and have it as Cody Rhodes versus Damien Sandow for the World Heavyweight Championship Money in the Bank ladder match, or for the Money in the Bank briefcase, and a ladder match to see who the real Mr. Money in the Bank was. Because if you remember, near the end of the Money in the Bank ladder match, Rhodes was at the top, he had his hand on the briefcase, and he got thrown off by his best friend. So, who knows? And then they decided that they wanted to do a WrestleMania 29 rematch, which was Ryback versus Mark Henry. Now, if you guys remember, Mark Henry won this. And I even remember that I said that Ryback was going to win it. But Mark Henry won. And after that, basically Mark Henry turned heel. Or not Mark Henry, Ryback turned heel. So, Ryback actually walked out on this match. He got a count out victory, or he got a count out. And after they called it a wild I don't know why they call it wild missing elbows. Mark Henry basically took his arm and he was going back for an elbow, and he missed. Ryback basically ducks and rolls out of the ring and walks off. So that's how that match basically went. They had their Total Divas segment where Natalya slapped Brie. Cena comes out and says that normally in matches it's a heel versus a babyface. He didn't say in those words. He says it's usually a good guy and a bad guy clashing. But this one is two good guys, a crowd favorite, and a guy who people boo, people cheer for. But the guy who's the WWE champion, a good guy, versus Daniel Bryan. Now, this whole segment here, to me, sounded like a John Cena heel turn, but it's not. People say the same thing I do. People would be like, yeah, this is definitely a John Cena heel turn, blah, blah, blah. It's his heel turn, it's his heel turn. He's never turning heel. And you can, when he turns heel, you guys can message me all you want and say, ha, I told you so, he turned heel. But I'm telling you right now, for as long as John Cena is in the WWE, he is not turning heel. Now I'm sure he'll eventually have a match like The Rock versus John Cena, but like new face of the company, which I'm thinking is probably going to be Dean Ambrose versus John Cena at WrestleMania for like the world title. I'm sure John Cena will win it again. He'll turn heel somewhere in there, and he'll still probably make movies, or probably have kids with Nikki Bella or something like that, and then he'll probably turn heel. But he won't be with the company full time like he is now. But during this, Randy Orton comes out and says that the champ is actually here because he's got that confirmed, basically, Money in the Bank contract. Well, Daniel Bryan comes out to even the odds, which Brad Maddox then enters and says, I'm going to make a 6-man main event tag match with Cena, Orton, and Bryan versus The Shield, which that was our main event. We then had tons of funk in the ring, and they were interrupted by the Wyatt family. Well, I was actually wrong. They weren't interrupted. It was actually the Wyatt family's first debut match, their first official match. Now, this I guess, as you guys could guess, was a squash match. The Wyatt family's destroyed tons of funk in this. Bray Wyatt finishes off Rose Clay and tells Kane to follow the buzzards, and and then all of a sudden Kane's pyro hits, and Kane says that when he actually kind of respects what the Wyatt family's doing. They'll go out there and they'll do the exact same thing Kane does, but what Kane does is for his own pleasure. What Wyatts do is for whoever's pleasure. He didn't say who. He didn't really say who. But Kane does it for himself. And then Kane says that at SummerSlam, there's going to be a match between Kane and Bray Wyatt. Now everyone that I talked to was saying that it was going to be Kane and The Undertaker versus The Shield, but I didn't think Undertaker would return. And Undertaker's not probably returning until WrestleMania, or until Hall of Fame. Because this year, I think, is the year for Undertaker to be announced as a Hall of Famer. He needs to be announced last, and when he has a match at WrestleMania, he needs to be like, it needs to be like all the guys who are in that class of Hall of Famers, like Paul Bearer, but he can't be there. Like Paul Bearer and just some of these other guys. And here's what needs to happen: Undertaker doesn't need to be out there. Then they have his match, and then all of a sudden you hear a gong with it, and then he walks out, and it says, "And the newest Hall of Famer, Undertaker." And he just walks out, does his match, and leaves. And all of a sudden, like, if he does happen to go 23-0, then it says 2014 Hall of Fame 23-0. But this might be the year that he loses, so it might be like 22-1 or 21-1 or whatever. It would be 22. That's it, because Punk was just 21. So it would be like 20-1 or 22-1 after that. But Undertaker does not need to be out there. They want to introduce Undertaker into the WWE Hall of Fame when they do Paul Bearer. That was their intention all along. But now that Paul Bearer died, they want to have Undertaker in the Hall of Fame. So Kane is not going to be with Undertaker at SummerSlam. Undertaker is more than likely not going to be back until WrestleMania. So that's not going to happen. But Kane said that he's going to go against Bray Wyatt in a Ring of Fire match. Now, to me, this sounds like an Inferno match. They haven't had an Inferno match since Kane versus MVP in an Inferno match. And a Ring of Fire match could very well be an Inferno match, just not as brutal sounding, I guess. A Ring of Fire does sound a little brutal, though. I mean, a Ring of Fire, when I think of that, I think of those things that those motocrossers jump through. But, a Ring of Fire, just call it an Inferno match. Keep it as it is. You gotta bring back Inferno matches eventually. So, this is where you can bring it back. Just call it what it is. If it's an Inferno match, then it's an Inferno match. If it's not, then it's not. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do this. You then have Punk, who is interviewed about his match against Curtis Axel. And all he says is, yeah, I'm going to beat Curtis Axel tonight, and then I'm going to go WrestleMania, or not WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and beat Brock Lesnar. That's really all that interview was about, and that Paul Heyman's a liar, and they will get his hands on him. Then you had Caitlyn versus Layla. Now on SmackDown, Layla turned her back on Caitlyn and helped AJ get the win. So Layla is now a heel. And during the match, AJ comes out before Caitlyn's about to do a spear and basically helps Layla win. And then after the match, they skip around the ring. Well, the next match is Slater versus Christian. And Christian got this big spear out of nowhere. I mean, Christian, you see him kind of down in one of the corners, all of a sudden he just runs and spears. I think Heath Slater jumped like midway, and Christian had a jump too, kind of, and just speared him. It was a pretty big spear. It's not as big as Edge's, but it was still a pretty big spear. You then had Punk versus Curtis Axel, which they didn't really say who the winner was, so I'm calling this a draw. And Punk leaves the ring and goes for Heyman before the match. And Punk actually does get his hands on him at the end of the match, though. And all of a sudden you hear Brock Lesnar's music, and out comes Brock Lesnar. And right then they start fighting. They start fighting. Well, actually, no, they don't. As Brock Lesnar is making his way to the ring, Punk is getting ready. He's like, "Come on, I want you right now. I want you right now before SummerSlam." So Curtis Axel is actually standing behind Punk, and he pulls him out of the ring. and he gets a GTS for his troubles. So Brock Lesnar goes out of the ring and starts attacking Punk. Well, Punk fights back. They go back and forth. Finally, um, oh, um, they get back in the ring after this brawl outside, and after Punk got like the bottom of his chin down here busted open. Uh, they go back in the ring. They bring in a chair, and we had Punk who hit Brock Lesnar with a chair one time. It took Brock Lesnar down. Punk takes his attention towards towards Paul Heyman with the chair, and he's sitting there pleading like, "Oh no, please, please, Brock hurt him. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Brock hurt him. Please, Punk, just don't hurt me." And all of a sudden, Brock gets back up, F5s him, and beats him with the chair like maybe 3 or 4 times. And that was that beating. After they came back from a commercial, Lesnar, Axel, and Heyman are all interviewed. And for the first time in a long time, Brock Lesnar actually spoke. I'm saying that he broke his silence. And he finally says, "Heyman, say something stupid." After Brock Lesnar got done talking, and Heyman basically makes a match. He wants a match against Punk next week. He says if he accepts, he will get the beating of his life. So, lo and behold, later on before the main event, Punk actually accepted the match. So, then we had Fandango versus the returning Kofi Kingston, and Kofi Kingston debuted a new attire. He doesn't have his shorts anymore. He's got long pants now. And Kofi Kingston, you could have figured, won this match by Trouble in Paradise. Triple H next is on the phone with Stephanie McMahon enters crying because the corporate makeover didn't go so well. And Vince McMahon basically took it out on her. And Triple H says that he's going to do something about it. That Bryan does deserve to be champion. And that Vince has gone way too far. So, next you had We the People, the Real Americans, versus the Usos. And before the bell rang, Zeb Coulter decided to rip Green Bay a new one. Bad idea. They might be cheeseheads, but Green Bay people know what they're doing. Just look at the Green Bay Packers. Just look at Mr. Kennedy. But I might start start something new. I don't know if I think I mentioned this before. Yeah, I did. That I might do like wherever we're at. That'll be basically do like an intro for that superstar. I remember I said that. But during this match, I noticed something fishy. I was looking and I said, "Is that a new ref?" And it looks like a whole new referee. That they're only using certain referees for certain nights. Like they're using like referee Scott Armstrong for pay-per-views now. And probably Charles Robinson. But the Real Americans won this, actually. You then had Dolph Ziggler versus Big E Langston, and Caitlyn enters and she starts to brawl with AJ. It goes and spills onto the ring, and Dolph Ziggler tries to split them apart, which then costs Dolph Ziggler because he got a big ending right after they got out of the ring, and Big E Langston got the win. That led to our next segment for the main event. It led to Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, and John Cena versus The Shield. Now, when Cena was cutting his promo earlier, he wasn't wearing this white elbow pad on this arm. So between the promo and that match, Cena did something in his elbow, or to his elbow, or to that little area of his arm, that he had to wear this white elbow pad out. And at one point, Daniel Bryan is thrown into Randy Orton, and Randy Orton doesn't like that. So he comes back into the ring after the match. He comes back into the ring and RKO's Daniel Bryan. And John Cena's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then the Shield come back in. Cena and Randy Orton brawl with the Shield. Shield leave. Randy Orton RKO's Cena. Well, Randy Orton sees what he's done. He sees Cena's down and basically hasn't moved. He leaves the ring and goes for the briefcase. He's coming back towards the ring. He's on the apron. He's about to step through the ropes, and the Shield come back out, and they beat down John Cena and Daniel Bryan. And so Randy's like, "You know what? I want nothing to do with them." And he walks out, goes back up the ramp, and he just watches. And he leaves. And as the Shield is doing, as they're, I guess the Shield's putting their fists together for like their mighty powers, the show ends. Now, we didn't see what Triple H did. There's still a lot of questions to be answered. One question that I would love to have answered is, are we indeed going to get the Bellas with John Cena and Daniel Bryan? At this rate, it doesn't look like we are, because let's see here. SummerSlam is 2 weeks away. It's the 18th. Next week is the 12th, and then after that's the 19th. So the 18th is SummerSlam. They got 2 weeks to throw in the Bellas. Well, a week to throw the Bellas in somewhere, if they're going to use them. But we don't know yet. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. The real champ is here. I am the YouTube champion, and I'm checking out. I will definitely see you guys next week, and I will definitely see you guys the week after that for the SummerSlam prediction night. Thank you.